Hey, my name is Matt, and this is the first PC I've ever built. I built it a little over a year ago, and since then I've learned a lot about computers, and if I could go back, there's definitely a few things I would have done differently. So I just want to make a video, sharing my experience building a computer, go through all the components and talk about what I'm still happy with today and what I wish I would have gone another direction in, and just hopefully help you guys out along the way. So first, let me talk about the case. This is a Corsair Spec 06 case with tempered glass, and it has this weird shape light on the front that you could change colors and all that. The case is mostly black with some white accents along here, so I made sure to get components that went along with that theme. Overall, I'm happy with this case. I've had this PC over a year, and when I look at it, I still think it looks really good, so I think that says a lot. And there's also a lot of little subtle things that make it nice to build in this case, whether it's, places for your cables to come through or places to tie off, and it's got this basement shroud on the bottom to hide your PSU. And even as far as performance goes, everything runs fairly cool in here, no overheating issues or anything like that. So overall, I've been happy with this case, but if I could go back and do it again, I would probably look at cases that have intake fans on the bottom. That way you could just feed more cool air to that graphics card. Alright, so moving on to the internal components, I decided to go with Intel for this build. I'd heard about AMD, but growing up, every computer I ever had Intel in it, so I felt like it was a brand I could trust at the time. So I got an i5 9600K CPU. It has 6 cores and 6 threads, and it has been a solid performer for me. When I think about it, I'm like, I don't really need an upgrade. This handles everything just fine. An upgrade would be nice, but yeah, this guy's pretty good. But fast forward to today, and I'm a big Ryzen fan. I mainly use my computer for playing video games and for editing videos. And so I like CPUs with high core counts, high threads. So I'm not saying Intel CPUs are bad by any means, but just for me personally, if I could go back, I wish I would have gotten a motherboard that supported Ryzen CPUs. So for the CPU cooler, I went with an Arctic Freezer 34, and this version just has one fan. I believe there's another one that has 2 fans on there. The most stressful thing I do to my CPU is edit and render videos, and even when it's rendering and it's at 100% CPU usage, I've only gotten it up to 60 degrees C, and even with the stress test, I've only gotten that CPU to 70 degrees C with that cooler. So I'm really happy with it, although keep in mind I have not overclocked my CPU. Yeah, I know, unforgivable. But yeah, I'm happy with how this cooler performs and how it looks, because it matches everything in here. And then for the motherboard, I got an Asus ROG Strix Z390F. And I've been happy with this motherboard, but I wish I got the Z390E, not the Z390F, because although this version doesn't have Wi-Fi, which isn't a big deal to me, I just use my Ethernet, this version does not have Bluetooth, and I did not originally realize that, so that was kind of a bummer. Next for the RAM, I got 2 8GB sticks of Corsair LPX RAM, and they are both running at 3000 megahertz. And originally I wanted to get some RAM with some RGB on it, but the particular ones I was looking at literally cost twice as much, and it had the same performance as these. I'm just paying for aesthetics at that point, so I'm glad I saved myself some money there. And it's not like these look bad. They still go in well with the theme I got going. And then moving on to my OS hard drive, this is from Team Group. It is a T-Force Delta S 500GB SSD. And you might be wondering, why didn't you get an M.2 hard drive instead of an SSD? And I was only watching budget PC build videos at the time, so I literally didn't know what an M.2 was, so that was on me. That's why I went with the SSD. And I've been warned about these, getting too hot and overheating, and it is like way too hot for some reason with those LEDs on, but I've never had any issues or crashes, thankfully. And it just lights up the bottom of my GPU so nicely. And then for storage drives, I have a Seagate Barracuda hard drive under here, just for everything else that's not gonna fit on the SSD. And then I have another hard drive down there just for all my YouTube videos. And then I have a 600 watt power supply from EVGA, and this case allows you to mount it with the fan facing up or down. There's vents on both sides, so I have it with the fan on the bottom, that way this guy isn't choking it out for air. And then right here I have an Elgato HD60 Pro game capture card, and I haven't used it in any videos yet, but that is for future videos. And if you're paying attention, yes, I have this in a 16 slot PCIe, even though it only requires a 1 slot. I can't get him to work down there for some reason. So that's where he is for now. But even though that's splitting the bandwidth for this other PCIe slot, it's not bottlenecking the GPU at all. So for the GPU, I went with a Zotac RTX 2060, and this is the AMP edition. Originally, I was planning on buying the standard edition, but it was out of stock when I was ordering all my parts, so I paid the extra 30 bucks, got the AMP edition, and I'm happy that I did because the name lights up on it, so it looks cool. And as far as performance goes for an RTX 2060, I'm gaming at 1080p, and this will run most games anywhere between 120 and 144 FPS. Some of the newer games, you know, it might be down to 90, but I'm talking about games with ray tracing off. I haven't done a lot of gaming with ray tracing on, so I can't really say for that. So really, if you're gaming at 1080p and you have a 144 Hz monitor, this guy is pretty good. If you're gaming at 1440p or 4K, you might want something more powerful. And you know, if you're playing some games like CSGO or something that's real easy to run, you can get the full 240 Hz out of this guy, which I have been doing with my new monitor over there, and it's been pretty cool. So yeah, kind of the same story that I had with the CPU. This graphics card, you know, I don't really need an upgrade. Of course, an upgrade would be nice, but this guy is a solid performer. And then the only other thing I really changed in here was I replaced all of the case fans. You know, this case originally came with one intake and one exhaust fan. You know, they're just plain black. And so I got these. These are Corsair Quiet Edition AF120 fans. And they look good. I like the white ring on there. But I did some tests and my computer isn't running any cooler than it was with the original fans. So they look good. They're definitely a lot quieter. But performance-wise, it's the same. And you know, these are the Quiet Edition fans. Corsair also has Performance Edition, and they're gonna blow more air, but they're gonna be louder. And you know, me personally, I like my computer quiet. And so one last thing, if I turn off my light over here, that's what the PC looks like by itself. And that is all lit up just by one magnetic LED strip on the top. So that's it for my computer. You know, even after a year, I'm really happy with it. And I feel like when picking components, I make good decisions for the most part. And you know, when you're picking parts for your next PC, I feel like you gotta find your own balance for your budget. You know, what you're gonna spend on performance and what you're gonna spend on aesthetics, because they're both important. But I've seen people build PCs where they spent more money on RGB fans than my graphics card cost. You know, it's easy to get carried away. As far as performance, ask yourself what you're gonna use your computer for. Are you gonna be using it to game at 1080p or 4K? You want games to run at 60 Hz or 144 or 240? Are you gonna be streaming on your computer? And just asking yourself those questions will kind of help you decide what parts you're gonna want to invest more money in. And you know, based on what you're gonna do with it, you know, you may not need the absolute best graphics card or the best CPU. I feel like you can totally make a computer that you're gonna be happy with without spending thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, unless you can afford it, then go for it. So that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. And you know, of course, with this being the first PC I built, of course this is special to me, but it's just crazy to think back on all the games I played on it this past year, all the YouTube videos I've made, and you know, it's been awesome. So thank you all for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.